All right, welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a world that, for most of us, is just something we hear about in the headlines. So think of this as your special briefing on the tools, the tactics, and, the key players in the world of offensive cyber warfare.
So let's just start with a pretty provocative question, one that's pulled right from our source material. Do you want to become a major cyber warfare player? I know, it's a bold question, right? But it gets straight to the heart of what we're going to be exploring today.
And let's be crystal clear about something. This isn't science fiction anymore. It is the new front line of global conflict. It's a battlefield that's made of data and code and networks, and it's active 24/7.
So, with that in mind, let's get our bearings. Welcome to Section 1, the new digital battlefield. This is where we're going to lay the groundwork for understanding this incredibly complex and, honestly, rapidly evolving space.
Okay, let's dive into it. Section 2. Meet the cyber warriors. Look, every battlefield needs soldiers, right? Well, the digital one is absolutely no different. We're going to break down the key roles, the positions on this high-tech team.
But before we can really meet the team, we have to understand their number one foundational skill, OSINT. It stands for Open Source Intelligence. It's basically the art and science of gathering information from public sources. We're talking about social media, news articles, public records, really anything that's out there just waiting to be found.
And that brings us to our very first key player, someone who lives and breathes this stuff, the OSINT analyst. You should think of them as the master of information, the digital detective of the entire cyber warfare world.
So what does an OSINT analyst actually do all day? Well, they're on the hunt. They're profiling malicious actors, they're digging through social media for clues, and they're mastering this whole suite of tools to connect all the dots. And in this world, the landscape is always changing, so their biggest job is just staying one step ahead of everyone else.
Okay, next up we've got the threat hunter. Now, if the OSINT analyst is the detective gathering clues on the outside, the threat hunter, they're the proactive sentinel, the one who's actively searching for threats that are already hiding inside a network.
Yeah, their skill set is a bit different. They're mining these massive internal datasets, looking for any tiny sign of malicious software. They have to understand the enemy's playbook, what we call their tactics, techniques, and procedures, or TTPs. You got to think of it as knowing exactly how the enemy moves, how they attack, and how they cover their tracks. These guys live in places like VirusTotal, sifting through community data to find that one needle in a giant haystack of data.
And all of that brings us to the frontline soldier, the offensive cyber warfare operator. This is the person who actually executes the missions, both defensive and offensive. And their mandate is, well, it's broad. It all starts with a deep understanding of networks and doing reconnaissance, quietly scoping out a target. From there, they basically become the conductor, orchestrating the entire operation and using a mix of standard and custom-built tools to get the job done.
So now that we've met the players, let's take a look at their equipment. Let's move into Section 3, building your cyber arsenal. What does every single cyber warrior need to have in their toolkit?
Now, what's really interesting here is this fundamental distinction that the source material makes. It separates a cyber warrior's entire inventory into two distinct parts. On one side, you've got cyber assets. This is your persona, your online identity, your history. And on the other side, you've got your cyber arsenal. These are the actual tools you use to operate. Totally different things, but both are absolutely vital.
And don't make any mistake, your cyber assets are the foundation of everything. We're talking about carefully cultivated online accounts, a persona that's been built over years, your own private collections of intelligence data, and even websites that you control. It's your history and your cover all rolled into one.
And right here, we can see a core component of that cyber arsenal in action. This is a web crawler, a tool for automatically pulling just vast amounts of data from the internet. It's basically automation for intelligence gathering, a true force multiplier for any operator out there.
So beyond web crawlers, the arsenal includes tools for security and communication. A VPN for anonymity, encrypted email for secure comms. But look at that last point, a network of human contacts. Your arsenal isn't just software. A huge part of it is also about who you know. And this brings us to a really key insight. Offense and defense are just two sides of the same coin. What we're looking at here is a firewall rule set, which is a key part of operational security, or OPSEC. The bottom line is, you absolutely have to protect your own systems to be an effective operator.
Having a clean, isolated research environment is completely non-negotiable.
All right, so we've looked at the individuals and their tools. Now, let's zoom out a bit in Section 4, Nations Enter the Game. How are entire countries organizing themselves for this totally new form of conflict?
This table gives us a fascinating snapshot of the different national playbooks. The USA's doctrine is, well, it's aggressive. Day-to-day offensive operations and deterrence through strength. France, on the other hand, focuses way more on defense, resilience, and upholding international norms, protecting the integrity of the internet itself. And then you have a country like the UAE, taking this very pragmatic, collaborative approach by outsourcing expertise and building international partnerships. I mean, it's 3 different nations, 3 wildly different philosophies for a new kind of war.
And this really just goes to show you, there is no single playbook here. Some nations, like the US, build these massive in-house capabilities. Others, like the UAE, they just buy that expertise. And some, like France, are really pushing for international cooperation and standards to try and govern this whole new domain.
So where does this all lead? Let's wrap this thing up with our final section, the future of cyber war. What can we really expect from this constantly evolving digital battlefield?
So what are the big takeaways from our briefing today? Well, first, cyber warfare isn't some far-off future thing. It is happening right now. Second, this is a human endeavor. It requires a team of really skilled specialists. Third, success is a combination of your online identity, your assets, and your technical capabilities, your arsenal. And finally, the global stage is just a complex chess match where every nation is writing its own rules as they go.
And so, we're going to end right where we began, with a question for you to think about. In this new battlefield of data and code, where the lines between civilian and combatant are getting more and more blurred, who will you be?